And boom. Hello, this is Ian Lewis for the Sacred Inclusion Network, and I am the Assistant Director. And I'm with Ken Haldenstein, who is an intricate member of our network, one of the core members. And we are going to have a little membership spotlight. This time, the spotlight is going to be on me. And pretty much this came sort of organically. I will say, Ken, you are my first internet friend where that I met online, and we kind of just have these continuous conversations through Facebook chat, and you've been a part of a few of the community nights, which have been special. We've talked about variety of things like the masks we wear or parenting these days. And yeah, this started organically with you asking me a couple questions about my life in Ecuador. I've moved here 8 or 9 months ago, and I really just couldn't answer like in the Facebook chat. It's just a vast, like I could only give you a couple sentences, and I was like, hey, like we talked, we said we should have a conversation someday. We should talk on the phone. And I had the thought, hey, we should make a podcast out of this because I think it would be cool for some people that I know to kind of hear what I've been doing. And I live a life that is definitely not the normal structured, the path that's made for me. So I think it's interesting to have this conversation. So you asked me some questions, and I want to give you some insight and continue this relationship. I feel that in the future, like I said, the spotlight will be on you one day. You were a lawyer for many years, and now you're in the activism stage or phase or however you want to call it. But this is a little bit of context, and I appreciate everyone who's tapping in to listen about my life moving to Ecuador and adapting to everything this world has to offer. So I'll throw you the ball, Ken, and ask anything you want, and then we'll kind of snowball from there.
Great, Ian. Thank you very much. Thank you for offering to have me guest host what I believe to be in the future becoming your podcast to bring on other people. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And it's an honor to be here on this Saturday morning, beautiful Saturday morning where I am, which is in White Plains, New York. So in keeping with the introduction that you eloquently gave, I have only met you on the internet with the help of the pandemic, so to speak. It's been a time to make internet friends, which I deeply appreciate, and I deeply appreciate you. So I don't know that much about your background, and I mentioned that before we started this podcast. So I'm coming in pretty fresh, which puts me in a position perhaps to ask open-ended, useful questions, because I don't know the answer. I don't know what you're going to say. So I thought I would start with, hey, you are in southern Ecuador in a farming situation. That's about what I know about your current life. You sent me some beautiful pictures. But take it from where you came from, where you grew up, your background. You don't, give as much detail as you feel is appropriate. I want you to shape your own presentation and not be too heavy-handed on my part. But what can you tell us who don't know you very well about your background that ultimately led you to be in southern Ecuador?
All right, big question. I like it. Let's see. So I'm 30 years old. I was born in 1990 in the Germantown section of Philadelphia, which is a pretty diverse section of the city. And I am a mixture where my mother is from Italy, southern Italy, Sicily, and my father family comes from descendants of slaves. I've actually did the DNA test where I got 99% Yoruban, which is a religion from Southwest Nigeria and Benin and that area of Africa, which is very interesting. I want to explore that in some way. But my early life was pretty much mostly like playing sports and being a child, meeting friends. Because all these teams, I played basketball, I played baseball, and I played football. And I started when I was 4. And I pretty much played every season from age 4 to up until college. So I was just on the field. I was on the court. That's what I was doing. And that helped me like gain social skills, how to, like a team, the importance of a team, how to talk to people, how to, move and shake in this world. And as I grew up, I guess my first big identity was really sports, but just having a diverse group of friends where I have friends who are African American, I have friends who are white, I have Indian, Korean, and that's one thing I'm very blessed about like growing up in Philly, is it's had this unique experience to interact with immigrants from many different backgrounds. And yeah, it's pretty much my childhood. I had a lot of fun. I played a lot of sports. And then growing into high school, I became the party guy. That was like my second identity, MO, where, I'll never forget. I made baseball freshman year. I made varsity baseball. So I spent some time, I was spending time in the locker room with the seniors. And, they were talking about girls and drugs and parties. And I was 14, they were 18. And I was just like, oh my God, just listening from the side. And eventually, my dude, Joe Magdovich, was a senior. He invited me to a senior party. And it pretty much like turned me out. Like I saw the whole nine, the what do they call them, keg stands and beer pong and drinking and this and that. And that environment was more so white people on my baseball. Like I literally played basketball, my whole team was black. Played baseball, my whole team was white. And that's I kind of been like walking this line where, as we say, especially growing up, I've always been either the darkest person in the room or the lightest person in the room.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that was pretty much like the norm. So yeah, they introduced partying into my life, and I took to it. And I threw my first party when I was 17 with my friend Kenny Green, and we made almost $500 between us. And Curtis had a part too, Curtis Jones, shout out Kurt. But we made almost $500 as 17-year-olds having a party. And we kind of thought, oh, we can do this. Like what? We can do this again. So we did it again, and it was very successful. A lot of people came, and that kind of became my thing. I was going to all the parties. I was having the parties. I knew where the parties were, and I was mingling. I was going all over Philly, and school was, I was a smart dude, but I never took school seriously. I went to Masterman, which is like the magnet school in Philly. It's one of the best schools. But in 6th grade, I discovered cheating, which kind of like, once I discovered cheating, like everything went downhill. Like I'll never forget, I walked into science class and I didn't know we had a quiz. And I was like, what? We don't have a quiz, what are we gonna do? And my friend was like, just look at my answers, I studied. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, that's cheating. He was like, what, do you want to fail? I was like, good point. So I cheated, I got a 97 and everything went downhill from there. But I was a social dude. And yeah, that was my thing. The way I put it is, I liked sports, playing sports, winning games. I liked partying and having fun, and I like girls. That was pretty much my 3 things. And then I had a life-altering event. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when I was 21, I got a little bit too drunk. It was the junior year of college, the end of finals. Finals had just ended. Got a little too drunk, and I got into an altercation with police officers. And that changed my life, because I was drunk and I was peeing in a bush. And I was under the, I guess it's not estimation. I thought that the situation was smooth, where I was like, hey, I'm just peeing, we're good, I'm not doing anything wrong. And he didn't say too much of anything. So I walked past him thinking all was good, which was not the case. And we ended up in court. He told the jury or whoever that I told him, fuck you, cop, come and get me, which is just a bold-faced lie. Like, it don't matter. I could have drank a million shots. I would never tell a police officer, fuck you, come and get, like, that ain't my MO. I'm not on that type of time. But what ended up happening was he kind of chased me. I jumped down some steps, slipped because it was wet. He jumped on top of me and gave me a pretty good beating. Lied about the whole situation. And then I had like 4 years where I like experienced the judicial system. And, even before that, I woke up handcuffed to a hospital bed with like a light in my eyes, nice Indian doctor. And then I got spent 8 hours in a holding cell. On the way there, the police trying to convince me that it was my fault. And then I got to experience jail, which was a whole story. But that led me, it led me on a pretty much a path of deep depression. I will say I got some amazing opportunities took away. That was like the real devastating part. Like I was in jail, I had a black eye, I was bloody, but I won an essay contest. Out of 500 people, they picked 12 people to go to Jamaica. I had an internship where I was going to work for the Philadelphia Department of Rec at a camp for handicapped children, like children with autism and Down syndrome. And I got chosen to study abroad in Rome the next semester to live with my friend who would be my roommate. And I got all 3 of those amazing opportunities taken from me because like this cop decided to beat me up. Oh, and add to the fact that, he lied and said it was all my fault. So I was a charged felon. So for 2 years, from 21 to 23, I was a charged felon. And they were talking about, 15 to 20 years in jail for getting beat up by the police, pretty much. So yeah, I went into a deep depression, and that's like a story that I could talk about forever, which I don't need to get into all that. But it led me to start pretty much learning for myself. It started with aliens. My friend introduced me to like some alternative history that had to do with aliens, and I thought he was fucking crazy until he told me that one of my favorite rappers made a song about it. And I was like, what the hell is this? What is this? And I listened to it, and this song had a bunch of topics and words I had never heard. So I started researching them, and I pretty much haven't stopped researching since. Not as much alien stuff, but yeah, that's like the big shift in my life and that led me to learn about everything, man. Like where we start? We started with aliens, and then we definitely went into conspiracy theories. We went into the interworkings of our society structure. We went into history. I was a history buff for a while, learning all, but history from this perspective of like people trying to uncover history that hasn't been told. Geopolitics. I became a geopolitics freak. And I just like dove into what I became interested in. And yeah, that led me on a whole path. I managed a band for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, like an all black rock band. That was fun. I managed a singer. I was like a music manager as a whole phase of my life. That was interesting. That was when I was like throwing parties. What else? And that led me to like really want to experience life outside of the States, which I ended up living in Thailand for a year. I lived in Hong Kong for 4 years, and we can get into all that. But I think that's a good like background. I was the jock who partied, liked women, and then the police beat me up, and I started like to actually think about life for the first time ever, and not kind of just walk on the path. And yeah, any questions? I feel like something might have came to mind from all that, or
yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry, coming, and I'm not going to make this about me, but let me I can turn off my phone because it's the house phone.
No problem. And if you want to make it about you, please feel,
I'm going to put it on mute for a second.
Hey, handle your business. I can cut this out, or maybe I won't cut this out. Maybe I'll say that although all these horrible things happened to me, my friend Malcolm told me that he really thinks it was the best thing that's ever happened to me because it changed the direction of my life. It led me on a journey that I could never describe. And sometimes tragedies happen, but lead you on the right path. And that's just the kind of way life goes. And now I'm in a place where I'm trying to do some deep emotional healing. And how are you feeling?
Okay. I'm good. So, sorry about the distraction.
No
Um,
problem.
so I'm going to get to the part where you got to Ecuador. But what I was going to say, just to contrast, and as I said, parenthetically, not, I don't want to change the focus on myself, but I think it's worth contrasting
Please
that
do.
I had basically the privileges, so I also was into sports, though clearly less talented than you. But that's what I did as a kid, sports and music, and attempting to have a social life with the girls and so on. But then I went off to college and had the privileges and you don't know it at the time because I'm living in a white bubble basically. I only learn retrospect, but so it's an honor for me to hear your experience, but very sad for me to hear your experience as well, because it's ridiculous. Maybe that ultimately set you on a helpful path, but it's a crime that your opportunities were taken away from you and you were put through this trauma and as a barely young adult. So we may circle back. I'm certainly interested in Thailand and Hong Kong. We may circle back to that, but I think our goal is to move forward and then to where you're getting to where you're at now, and then maybe we'll circle back. So tell me briefly about Thailand and Hong Kong, just in summary, and then where you went from there.
Oh, okay. So after this happened, and I read deep about the judicial system and the bank system and the prison system and this and that, I made the decision that, I want to live outside of the country. Like I want to, just taste what life can be and kind of compare my options. So originally, my plan was to do that through the band. I managed a black rock band. They were very talented, and we were going to they were going to get famous and make all this money and tour the world. And then I was going to be able to experience the world that way. That didn't quite happen. But my friend Rashid, he is a lawyer now. He had a gap year. And during his gap year, he decided to teach English in Thailand. So he went to Thailand, and in Thailand, he got into the basketball community to the point where he got a part-time job working at a basketball academy, top flight basketball academy. And I visited Sheed. As soon as he got accepted, I was like, I got to visit you. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. But I visited him. And in between me buying my ticket and going out there, he goes, hey, I'm coming back to Philly for summer because I want to spend time with my family before I go to law school in Michigan. Mm-hmm. But my job needs basketball coaches. And at that time, I was working with kids. Basketball is in my blood. So pretty much I met the boss in Thailand and I got a job coaching basketball at Top Flight Basketball Academy. And it was probably the best year of my life, easily top 3. Not only am I living in Bangkok, which is just like insane megatropolis city of 8 million people with this unique culture and this like unbelievable dynamic. And there's a lot of, it's the most global city, or I think one of the most global cities in Asia. So it's people from all over the world. I'm meeting interested people. I'm having conversations with people in Pakistan in my apartment. And not only am I in Thailand, but I'm immediately inserted into the basketball community where like day 3, I'm now teaching 5-year-olds basketball in this academy. And it was so much fun. Like I can never tell you how much fun I had at that job. It didn't feel like a job. While I'm working, I'm dribbling, I'm shooting, I'm messing around. All of my coworkers were amazing. And half of them were professional basketball players. So what they do is, they get a contract in Ireland or Australia. And then after this, the season's only 3 or 4 months. After they come back, coach basketball and kind of just flow it out. So they were like the basketball experts and I was the little kid expert. So I'm teaching like 7-year-olds how to dribble and playing little games and like just messing around with kids. And they love me because all of these kids, they came from like a more wealthy background. Like the kids' parents had money. Like some of the kids, like I'm talking billions. Like that was more in Hong Kong. But so these kids have money. So they all they have nannies and drivers. And everyone talks to them like this. And, oh, you're such a good little Billy. And I was like, all right, like line up. We about to hoop. We about to have some fun. Like you get over. Like I just talk to them like human beings. And they're all kind of just like, look at me like, I got one quick story to do. Superman. little dude Superman. He had these big glasses. He's 5 years old, and he was just a mischievous dude. Like if I looked away, I looked back, he'd be on the other side of the gym with the big kids. Like just always into something. And I was talking to him, and I forget what I said, but I was like, like we're homies. We got to be this together. We're homies. And I'm talking in this is like week 2, so I'm still talking Philly. I had to learn how to talk like this to them so that we can all figure it out. But like, I'm like, yo, line up. Like, yo, you my homie. Chill out, boy. Like, I'm talking to him like this. Like, I talk in Philly, and he looks at me like little 5-year-old Thai kid. He's like, coach, he goes, what is homie? And and I'm just like, oh, like, you're like, friend, you're my friend. You're my homie. And he says, oh, okay. And I just have all these little beautiful moments with these kids. I'm playing basketball 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm just eating this delicious food. Oh my God, like the friends I met some very interesting people. Actually, a friend of mine, Sheed, who brought me there, he had befriended a lawyer who was worth quite a lot of money, multiple millions, and we became friends. So literally, my closest friend in Bangkok was worth millions of dollars. He had a penthouse on the 30th floor, overlooking the whole thing, the whole city, and we became good friends, which is a whole nother crazy story. But yeah, Bangkok was unbelievable. It just kind of opened my eyes to like, there's just so many possibilities out here other than, the path that we've been given. And so I spent the summer there, and it was just, like I said, incredible in every way, pretty much. But then my boss was opening up a camp or a academy in Hong Kong. And he was looking for coaches, and all of my coaches were pretty much based in Bangkok or transient. And no one wanted to move to Hong Kong just for this academy. And I found out about it, and I was like, I'll move to Hong Kong and coach basketball. Like, sure, you need people, what's up? And that was great because the move, he like paid me a little bit extra. He was paying me pretty good. I wasn't really working that many hours. And Hong Kong is another. I didn't love Hong Kong as much as Bangkok. Bangkok's like the party like capital. And I was moving away from parties, but it's like, you could spend all 24/7 like parties all night and then just get breakfast and people do this. Like I know professional basketball players who like hoop and party, and like there's nothing like Bangkok. It was just like they built it around like foreigners going crazy. So just met a lot of interesting people, a lot of adventures. I traveled a lot from there. But in Hong Kong was interesting because, well, one, it was I think the most expensive private school in Hong Kong. So like this is like hot. Like I'm living in luxury now, and I'm not living in luxury. I'm at work experiencing luxury. Like they have a high def gym that I'm in, these amazing facilities. And these kids are just looking at me. They just love me. I'll never forget baby Kobe. Oh my God. Another quick side story. There's one girl, Mia. She was 10 years old, and she got buckets. Like she was so good at basketball. She was killing the other girls. Like just way too good. And we became friends. And one day I see her, we walk out together, and she walks next to this dude in all black and hops into like a Maybach. And I'm like, oh shit. Bye, Mia. Like, oh, whatever. And I'm noticing as time goes by, there's dudes I noticed it from the beginning, but there's always bodyguards around. Like there's just guys in all black just standing there. Like you're coaching these kids basketball, and you're just like, all right, like people are loaded. Yeah. Turns out, and it doesn't matter. She is the granddaughter of the guy who pretty much started Macau. Have you ever heard of Macau?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure the context.
So Macau is the Las Vegas of China.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, it does 8 times the number, because Chinese people, they go there to gamble. Like it's no partying. They just gamble, and they just do numbers. And he owns like billions of dollars of realty there. So I'm just like in Hong Kong coaching with these super rich kids, like, and it's cool because they're showing me a way of life that I could never imagine, but I'm also showing them like humanity, because a lot of these, kids they got their bodyguards, and like it's wild. And another cool thing about Hong Kong is, so the first day I met there, I met a dude named Mike Fay, who I actually did a podcast with. I could send you that. But he was a professional basketball player at the time. He was like on his like 12th or 13th year, and he was coaching for Ike. My boss needed a favor. So I meet he's 7 foot, played for UCLA, played with Kobe, played with Pau Gasol, all of them, has amazing stories. He played in China for like 3 years. So he's connected in Hong Kong. So now he's got me like going to like clubs on the 63rd floor. And just like, I really just got to experience something I could never have imagined. Like a dude from Philly being able to like just be in these places. And I remember I talked to like an owner of one of the China teams. My dude's worth like $1 billion, and we're just at the bar just like talking. And you know, I guess to me now it's more regular, like everyone's people. But it was my first time experiencing wealth, and definitely also seeing that like wealth does not mean happiness. It actually usually means the exact opposite. And at the same time, when I was out there, I did start developing you know, missing my friends, and me and Tamar were like starting a relationship. So I don't want to like say it was like all good. Like, you know, obviously living in another country is hard one way or another. You have to adapt. You have to learn all new ways of doing things. Although I should say that Bangkok makes it pretty easy. Like Bangkok's the most convenient place. Like it's way more convenient than anything in America. Like I lived at a place where I could step outside and there's a whole market on my street with fruit and chicken hearts and lungs and livers and anything you want. You can just step outside. It's very convenient. But yeah, so shout out to Rashid. Me living in Thailand was me being able to like be like, oh wow, like I love life again. This is fun. I'm having fun. I'm meeting new people. I'm like in a good phase. And yeah, then summer of 2017, I came back, and that was that. Shall we?
All right. Well, that sounds great that you explained that. Do you want to pick up on, did you meet Tamar in Hong Kong? That was, you referenced that very briefly.
Oh, I did not. So I met Tamar in August of 2015. And I first went out to Thailand in June of 2016. And it's funny. So I met Tamar when I was managing the band, and she is a musician, but she was an active musician where she was doing shows and she had an album out. And a friend of mine who we were helping each other, I was helping him book shows. He'd help me book shows. He was like, yo, there's this girl, Little Strike. Like, you got to book her. We're doing a specific show called Electric Church, and said, you got to book Little Strike. She's amazing. And I booked her, and we had a great talk. We had like vibed from the beginning. But I remember at that point in my life, I was kind of like, look, like I'm overwhelmed. I work at an after school program. I'm managing a band. I'm doing Lyft and Uber. I'm barely surviving. Like I barely have time for myself. Like I'm struggling. I can't be in a partnership. So as time, like we'd like see each other here and there. We talked a little bit on text messages, but like it wasn't a thing until maybe 6 or 7 months later, where the band I managed happened to do a show with her in a different venue, in a different place. And then we kind of reconnected. A little before that, I helped her throw a show. So pretty much we reconnect. And then at that, we get to talking. And then I asked her out to dinner, get some Vietnamese. That was like April of 2016. And then I find out not too long after that I'm going to Thailand June of 2016. So literally like Tamar was a crucial aspect of my trip in Bangkok, because although I'm in Asia, I'm having these experiences. At the same time, me and her are FaceTiming almost every day, like a lot, getting to know each other while I'm over there. She's like helping me through the process because she lived in China for a year, and she's wise in a million ways. So yeah, that's kind of like literally like we began becoming a thing while I was on the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. And a big reason why I came back was because of her.
Got it. Okay, that's a helpful explanation. Okay, so I think that brings us up to 2017, if I caught the timing correctly. That's when you came back from Hong Kong, or not?
No, Philly. Actually, not Philly, Bangkok. So what ended up happening is I spent 3 months in Thailand. Then I spent 4 months in Hong Kong, and my boss was like, "Hey, actually, this isn't going exactly how I planned. I would prefer you come back to Bangkok." So I spent the last 6 months back in there. So 3 months in Bangkok, 4 months in Hong Kong, 6 months in Bangkok, and then I came. And it worked out well. Like I'm glad that it worked out exactly how it was supposed to.
So now you're coming back to Philly. Is that right?
Yes. Now I'm returning to Philly, and that was also a hectic time in my life because pretty much I had 3 reasons for returning. I think I'm not gonna put any 1, 2, 3, but one. So when I got beat up by the cops, I didn't finish college. I ended up dropping out. So I wanted to go back to college. 1, which I did. So I to Cheney. 2, I wanted to like explore this relationship with Tamar, which we have. And then 3 is I was managing the band up until I got the opportunity to move to Asia. And then I was like, you know what? I want to go back and like make this work. I want this band to be worldwide famous, successful. So I came back, and it was crazy because I was fully in. Well, after a little bit, like when I came back, what did I do? I worked regular job. At first, it kind of moved slow, but eventually got accepted to college. I was doing full time in college, had a little side gig, and I was beginning this partnership with Tamar, and I was trying to manage in the band, which that relationship was kind of crumbling. So I was just doing way too much, and so I was trying not to get too deep into this, although it is a very deep topic. A year afterwards, I ended up getting deathly sick, where Tamar and I went to Cuba, where that's a whole nother story. But in Cuba, I got very sick. And luckily I made it back to Philly right before it like got really, really crazy. Oh my God. I was on a flight from Miami to Philly with like the worst stomach pains. Like I had diarrhea like 3 times. I had to move people out of my way. It was horrible. But so I get back and I become deathly sick. And that's another like big life change because I spent 7 days in the hospital. I didn't eat for a week. I could barely drink. I was throwing up. I was shitting. I was in like 10 out of 10 pain. And they pretty much just chalked me full of antibiotics, which can cause and did cause a lot of damage to my gut. So I pretty much became extremely sick. But when I got out of the hospital, I downplayed it. I didn't really tell my friends really what happened. I kind of like, oh yeah, I got sick. I feel better. And I wasn't even putting the pieces together that like afterwards I had energy issues. I had, I was falling asleep in the middle of the day. I couldn't sleep. I was struggling to poop. Like I was just like, the issues were piling up. And really I was becoming like super depressed again. And in the same time, Tamar was there for me in a way that no one has ever been there for me. Like times like 3. Like she was such a good partner. She helped out. She did so much research in so many different ways, which I was barely there for. And even like in the hospital, like there's a lot of, I don't even remember a lot of it because I was in so much pain. I kind of just pushed it out. So what ended up happening was she got sick not too long after that, and which I was not the partner. Did the opposite. I was depressed, doing everything you shouldn't do. I wasn't invested in her health like I needed to be and like I wanted to be. And so we ended up breaking up, which led me down a whole nother spiral of depression and struggle. And at this point, like my body's not really working. One thing I didn't say is that like after it first happened, I had memory issues. So I would read a chapter of a book and then I would try to like recite what just happened to myself. And I couldn't remember. And I was kind of like freaking out at that. But instead of like doing something about it, I would just like smoke weed and try to pretend it wasn't happening. So me and Tamar broke up, which was a very traumatic experience for both of us. So it was really hard. Luckily, the grace of God, we ended up getting back. I actually went back to Bangkok for another 3 months for the summer because my boss always needs coaches. But yeah, that's kind of the quickest explanation for that. I learned a lot, and I'm still learning a lot about myself. But yeah, I came back, and one thing that I should say is that like even being here now, what I'm realizing is like I've been depressed since the police beat me up. like since I'd experienced that, since I had to go to the court system I sued Temple University because it happened on Temple, and I lost the lawsuit. And I just saw the system about how this isn't for me. There's nothing to do with justice here. They ain't a whiff of justice. This is power and money. This is bullshit. They're using language that isn't English to me. It's like they didn't even let me tell my story on the stand. I'm experiencing these things, and I'm just becoming very fuck the world, shall we say. Like the world has treated me shitty, so I got to figure out some way. But like I know that the way that they want me to go, that ain't it for me. And I guess I was saying that, yes, I've been depressed since then, but I pretty much pushed it inside and then went on awesome adventures. So like, I'd be depressed in Philly, and then I go to Bangkok and Hong Kong, and I was living an amazing life, and I was having so much fun. But that anger, that sadness, that shame was still in me, but it could just be pushed away because I'm having fun. And then I come back to Philly, and I got to do all this work, and I got to live a regular life, and then I get depressed again, and then I get sick, and then I push it far again. And then I'm depressed, so me and Tamar go to Columbia, and we feel a little better. And then I come back, and then again, now I'm a substitute teacher, and I don't like my job, and I'm depressed again. And that's kind of I've had a crazy adventure. I've come back, lived a normal life, and for a while, but I've been depressed. And I think that's important to say that like I've been dealing with depression for a while now, but I'm like only just now starting to like look at it and be honest with myself for what it really is. So there's that.
I appreciate your sharing that. Again, without digressing, I can relate to that on a personal level, and I told you that, I think, about depression. So some other time, some other context, that could be a whole other discussion, how to deal with that. But I can relate. So I feel like we have a soul brother connection on some level, even though the backgrounds are so different.
Yeah, this is really cool because like I'm already looking forward to future conversations on and off of the podcast or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like this was originally going to be just us talking on the phone. I think it's cool that it's being recorded.
Yeah, we're exploring life. This is like real life as it happens. We don't know what we're going to say. There's no prep for this podcast. Zero. This is life, and this is the conversation we would have had offline, online, in vivo.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm looking forward to future offline conversations. So
yeah, thank you. This is exciting for me. And just again, briefly, what's significant about me is that I got kind of stuck in this mainstream cycle, earning a living, buying a house. I had a mortgage. I finally paid off my mortgage, but I got married late in life. I got married when I was 47. My wife was 45. That's 16 years ago. So everything happened for me kind of late, but I was just trying to catch up to living a supposed mainstream life. And now having the means or opportunity to retire, which I did at age 62. Now, finally, I had to fight to get to be functional and mainstream and earn a living and buy a house and have a healthy marriage and raise 2 cats. Not that you really raise cats, but the whole bit. And now, so I had to struggle to make my life work and catch up from kind of behind because of psychological reasons, which I overcame. And then I got fortunate financial circumstances, whatever. So in some ways, I'm like newly born at age 63. Now I'm 63 next week. So, and I'm like, I can, for the first time in my life, I can figure out what do I really want to do? What do I care about? Who do I want to connect with? How do I want to spend my time? I never had, even though I had sort of a privileged upper middle class background, I had to go to college, had to go to graduate school, had to earn a living. No one was supporting me, had to figure out my way in the world. And that was tough for me. So I'm like, thank God, finally, and I've been through depression. And so thank God, finally, I'm 63. I'm young, quote unquote, young 63. Numbers don't really mean anything anyway. Why should they mean anything? And, it's like, thank God. Anyway, that's my digression for that observation. So I guess this leads us to the point in your life when that led to your Ecuador experience. So I'm very interested to hear about that.
Wonderful. But before that, I do think that we've connected in a divine fashion because to some extent I'm in a similar situation where I'm in a place where I finally feel like, this is the first time I've ever spent time with myself, like legitimate, like being here with myself. And I'm still struggling to do it. Like I still I'm addicted to YouTube and there's still all these distractions, but I'm seeing myself and I'm asking the same questions. What am I passionate about? What do I want to do? What's my purpose on this earth? And I think the Sacred Inclusion Network is so cool because we're just a group of people we all have the same questions. We're all trying to figure it out. And to have people to work this together with is amazing to me. I feel like in the future, I want to, and I know we're going to be an intricate part of each other's lives, just having these conversations. So many people I know, I'm 30 years old, the 30-year-old, they talk to 30-year-old people. Maybe they might talk to a few family members that are different. But as far as the diversity of ages and backgrounds that we get to kind of have this, and I'm trying, and I'm put in a position where it's the universe is talk to people, connect with people, especially with people like you who are just open-minded and honest and vulnerable. So I think this is really cool. It's just amazing. You are a wise elder and human being. But yeah, so Ecuador. Where does Ecuador start? So, me and Tamar always kind of talked about, we wanted to explore life in a different country. Well, for me individually, it was always the case. I looked into moving to northern Thailand. That was my first destination. And then I did some research and I remember Ghana was a big potential, go back to Africa, Mexico. So I've always been what I would do is whatever country, I'd learn about the country, learn about the history, learn about the politics of all these different places. And Ecuador was never really on the radar, but Bolivia was definitely very high on the radar. Bolivia was number one. Mexico was always there, Peru. And just, I want to talk about safety. So a big reason why I am where I am is because I feared for my safety after what happened. It woke me up to look at the reality of my situation is, I don't feel safe here. I feel scared for a multitude of reasons. And when I was in Hong Kong is one of the safest places on earth. There's low gun crime, there's low murder, low rape, low theft. It's just, they don't do it. It's just not part of the culture. And so for me, getting drunk and then walking out at 3 a.m., just feeling super safe was whoa, this exists. In Philly, you always got watch out for that crackhead or that guy's acting weird. And not saying that doesn't exist in other places, but in Hong Kong, it's I'm not gonna just get my ass beat by 6 police officers because they feel like it. You know what I mean? So that was the motivating factor of I want to explore the world and see if there's a place opposite of Philly. And I love Philly. I'm so thankful I grew up here. But once I tasted the world, I'm for my central nervous system, for me to be able to enact my purpose on earth, I feel it's better and it's a lot of sacrifices, of course, but it feels worth it. So it was initially, I came to Peru, December 24th. Oh, no, that's not true. December, 11th, the day after my birthday. And it's because, so I had a friend who is another podcast I want to show. My friend Jamel, he's a super interesting person. I guarantee you would love this 2-hour podcast about his life. But he went to Peru and he had an amazing adventure. And he met this lady who was trying to start a commune / school. And I was oh, that sounds interesting. That's a good jumping place for me to go. Now, a little bit before that, Tamar, in 2016, Tamar visited Ecuador and she absolutely loved it. She played a show there. She studied English 4 months, intensive English program on the coast. She went to the Andes. She went to the jungle. She loved Ecuador. And that was always there. But it was Peru was the option. Maybe Mexico is the backup plan. And then my friend Jamil got a reading, like a spiritual reading, which is a whole nother thing, from my friend. And he was like, I feel like Ecuador might be the move. So I'm like, all right, how about we go to Peru, check it out. And then if I don't really feel it, then we can feel Ecuador out. I went to Peru, which was a whole story. I was there for like a month. I actually spent 1 week in a virgin jungle with a random German dude in this like makeshift fake commune. It was weird. It was weird. It was weird. But Peru was not the move. Peru, just the safety aspect was the same thing. It's a little bit more dirty. It's a little bit more sketchy. A shopkeeper in a town in Ecuador actually told Tamar, he was like, he was half Peruvian, half Ecuador. And he was like, in Peru, they might steal your phone and then kill you for no reason. In Ecuador, they'll just steal your phone and keep going.
What an improvement.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, again, and just being here, just the feeling of it. Like Peru feels like you got to watch your shoulder a little bit more. Ecuador, especially where I'm at, I do not have that feeling. I feel one of the safest places I've ever felt. But so Peru wasn't the wave. So me and Tamar came. It was the end of January of this year, and you know the pandemic definitely played a part, kind of sped it up. Things were getting a little crazy. Donald Trump was still in office, and just you know the overall chaos of a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. And I was just like, I need a break. Like I need to go to the jungle, like and do nothing. And so I did that, and me and Tamar pretty much came to Ecuador looking for like a potential. Like maybe we can find a place that we can settle down and just have a life. She had become really interested in medicinal plants and health in general, which led to like farming and gardening. And I still kind of was like, based off like, I just know I don't feel safe here. And I want to find a place, for me where I feel safe and comfortable and I can, you know, not like, I don't know, constrict a part of myself. So the story of how this happened is very, very interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll tell the story. Why not? So the only what's the word? Like inkling of an opportunity we had was a workaway. Have you ever heard of workaway?
Sounds familiar. I think people in my family have done it, but again, I need clarification.
Cool. It's pretty much like there's hosts and there's workawayers or workers. And the host post is like, look, you can come here, you can come to my farm, or you can come to my hostel, and you volunteer. You work like 3 or 4 hours a day. They give you a place to sleep, they give you food, and you're pretty much staying at this place and working for free. They have them all over the world. So we had one workaway in southern Ecuador, and the guy was a Qigong, a quote unquote self-entitled Qigong master. And Tamar had been doing Qigong. Qigong actually like helped her out so much. When she was dealing with her issues, she had horrible back pain to the point where she couldn't get out of bed for a month and just different body issues. And she had a mold allergy that was affecting her in horrible ways. And Qigong was like a gift from God for her, right? So this guy in Ecuador, he's a Qigong master. He lives in the mountains, and he claimed. I read some of his book. He studied with Bruce Lee's. Like Bruce Lee supposedly has like a secret teacher that like no one really knows about. He studied under this guy. But long story short is that it didn't work out. Like it wasn't the place. It was just a weird place. But prior to that, we stayed at an Airbnb. Like before, we didn't want to go right to the workaway. We're to stay at Airbnb, get acclimated a little bit. And then it's very interesting. So mold is like a force that has pushed Tamar's life in a lot of bad ways, but also led her to a lot of great places. And this particular place, the Airbnb was very moldy. So immediately Tamar smelled it and was like, oh, we got to get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not about to compromise my health. So we ended up going to a little bit more expensive Airbnb, but it was perfect. We met this woman who was born and raised in Trenton, and she had this amazing land, and we stayed in this beautiful cabin on this mountainside with this incredible little garden. And we stayed there for a couple of days, and we just fell in love with each other. We talked, had a couple of conversations, like, you know, we see eye to eye. She's a person that has done her own research in this world. Let's just say that. And yeah, we really clicked. So we stayed with her for a couple of days. We went to the workaway, which didn't work out. And then we returned to her with kind of like, damn, what do we do now? And there's a quick story I want to tell, because this story is like very like special and personal to me. So this whole time, another aspect of my life is my relationship with my father. But this time, my father was literally on his deathbed. And he had been for about 2 years. And I had been taking care of him, pretty much. And I wasn't doing the greatest job, to be honest, because I was doing 8 million other things. But I go to his house, I clean his house, I take him to all his hospital things. And I had so much guilt on me because I knew I wanted to get out of here, but maybe I should wait until my father passes away. But at the same time, my father was not there for me in most of the ways that you want a father to be there for you. Like, so I had to like, wait, you were a horrible dad, and now I have to like pick up your diapers full of shit in them. Like it was just a very tough situation for me. So it worked out to the most extent where we met this other nurse who was trained to take care of elderly people who are like on the transition. So his last couple months of his life, he had someone to take care of him way better than I could. She was trained in this. Every one of his whims was taken care of. But at the same time, I made this jump to Peru and then Ecuador. And I felt confusion. I felt guilt. Should I have stayed for my father? But I've been staying for 2 years. I want to leave. This, and that, right? So the Airbnb we go to after the moldy Airbnb, right? I talked to my dad, and this is the end of February of this year. And I'll never forget, for the first time ever, he says, "I love you" to me. This is like, right? And it was just like, I'll never forget, we talked for 7 minutes and 37 seconds. And for some reason, at the end of the call, I say, "Yo, I love you, Dad." Like, this is something we never did. And he said, "I loved you back." And that just like broke me. Like, I remember I was crying, like, you know, it was just like the whole, like, oh, wow, feeling with my dad. We had a real conversation about something that wasn't like baseball. And then we said we loved each other. It was wow. So that happened. And then we went to this workaway, which the Qigong master was this passive aggressive weirdo. His wife was like borderline evil. Like, they were just like doing this to like get workers to like weed in their garden. And she treated us horrible. She was disrespectful. They threw us in this like little mini shed that they hadn't cleaned. No one had been there since the pandemic. So we get to this little shed that's full of rat shit and this horrible mattress. And we're like, oh, this is not the place. Like, we want to have some sort of like partnership and bond, right? So we're already feeling like we don't want to be here, but we said we'll go there for 2 weeks. Okay. So from like their main house to our shed, there's a path you have to walk, and they had horses just roaming around. And one specific night, right? It's nighttime at this point. We go down, and oh, this was after me and the woman, the host, got into an argument over the stupidest shit, which I don't have to talk about. But she didn't want me to walk into the kitchen to put my food away. I had to go find them to give them the food because she's psycho. But so we get into a fight about this because it was like late. I was like, let me just put my food in the fridge. I don't want to bother y'all, whatever. And we have this fight, and then we go back to our shed. And this particular time, the horses are blocking the path. So like Tamara's like, whoa. Like, nope, I'm not about to walk past. No, I'm not about to get kicks in my leg. Like, we gotta just wait. And while we're waiting, my phone starts ringing. And mind you, if the horses hadn't blocked, I would have walked out of Wi-Fi range. I would have never gotten this call. It was a call from my dad's caretaker, Karen, and she was pretty much like, "Oh, like it's like he's about to pass away. Like it's time. What, like it's that." So literally, like, he couldn't talk. I talked to him. I said my piece. I told him how much I loved him, and that was the last time I ever talked to him. And then we went down. The horses moved. Went down to the shed, And now like I'm getting this information and like tomorrow's pretty much like, oh, we have to go back to the Airbnb. Like you have to, you have to talk to, there's so many million things going through your mind. You have to process this and talk to family. So we planned like, okay, we're going back to the Airbnb. We talked to the lady, everything's good to go. And literally the taxi picks us up at 2:30 from the workaway to the Airbnb. My father passed away at 2:30. I get in the taxi. I don't get the call. When we get back, I unpack everything. I look, I hear my father has passed away, but I'm in this like incredible cabin with this amazing, on a mountain with this amazing garden. And I just cry and I let it out. And like I said, I took the biggest poop I've ever taken in my life. And it really just like purged all these toxins out of my life. And that was the beginning, not the beginning, because it's been my whole life, but a lot of unstuck energy got out that day, and that I've been trying to kind of deal with. So fast forward, that is we make a deal with the Airbnb lady, where the Airbnb Mindy, who becomes a good friend of ours now. We stayed with her for 2 months, where we would work on her property because she's older. Her husband unfortunately passed away, so she has this amazing property. It's hard to take care of it by herself. She has some indigenous people, close like neighbors, that help her. But pretty much we were working on her land, and we're building paths, we're clearing out trees. Tamar's having amazing relationships with these new plants, and like it was really wonderful. We're living in this great place, and we're making everything work, and we're paying reduced costs to stay at our cabin for the work that we're doing. It all works out, but due to a small reason that it's very like I don't want to mention it, but to me it was very small. We had a small spat to the point where we saw that we weren't going to be able to continue to live there anymore, right? And this happened right before. In April, I went back to Philly to like take care of some stuff for my dad, and tomorrow I went back to see her family. So now we have these 2 weeks. We're like, yo, like maybe we can live here. Maybe we can take care of this woman. Like this is a magical place. It's in a place called Vilcabamba. It's like it's pretty much like hippie foreigners have kind of taken over. So it's this beautiful town in Ecuador where people from all over the world have moved there. And there's a lot of dark dynamics to this as well, because they buy all the nice property on the mountains and all the prices have gone up, and people are having trouble affording certain things now. And like there's definitely darkness of, of what the heck you call it, not civilization, globalization. But it's also in one way, it's this beautiful, incredible place we're living in nature, right? So now we're like, damn, what do we do now? Like we don't know where to go. We don't know what to do. All of our kind of connections fizzled out. What do we do? So one thing I didn't mention is we met this dude named Peppo, my guy Peppo, who lives in a city called Cuenca. When we first, I think in the earlier stages, and Peppo has this amazing family who owns this hostel in the city in Cuenca. And like every time we go to Cuenca, it's usually like on our path to do this or do that. We always stay at the hostel and tap in with Peppo. So Peppo before told us about his hometown called Piñas, which is, it's a beautiful place. It's like, it's in the Andes Mountains, but it's also only an hour away, or like an hour and a half from the beach. And he told us about it, and there's 3 different little towns there, and he told us all about it. And I was like, yo, like, we should go check this place out. Like, this seems like it could be perfect, right? So we end up going to a place called Saruma, which is this little town in El Oro, which is, it's gold, the gold state, like El Oro, exactly. And because about 100 or so years ago, more than that, a couple hundred years ago, it was full of gold. And companies, American companies, Chinese companies have been extracting the gold from this place forever. So obviously there's a lot of horrible consequences from this. Like one of the rivers is poisoned from all of the mining. But then also it's weird because it's this little small town, but a lot of people are very financially comfortable. It's like they got some money in this town, this little small town. It's something I've never experienced. This little unique town, also on a mountain. But the issue with this town is it is ding 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 super moldy. It's like it's humid, and it's just not the place for tomorrow. There's mold on the outside, and again, to we struggle to find a good place. Finally, we find like a good hotel, and tomorrow's like, no, this ain't it. This ain't it. But before we went to the hotel, we found there's one Airbnb in this town of Saruma. So we go to stay at the Airbnb, and it's moldy. And Tamar's like I can't live in mold. This is like, this has made me really sick before. I can't do this. So Tamar tells the woman, and she's like, oh, I have a friend who also has an apartment who rents. Maybe that'll work out. So we go to her friend's house, and we meet this woman, Marta, who is an angel. Marta and her mom, Olga. Marta's like 60, Olga's 80. Marta lived in Venice, Italy as a nurse for like 20 years. And her and Tamar hit it off. So 3 days in a row, we go to Marta's house, and she cooks us dinner, and we just talk and talk. And for me, it's a Spanish lesson. I'm just trying to catch every word. I'm trying to learn, try to say when I can.
Does Tamar speak? I have to interject so I can follow along. Does Tamar speak Spanish? Or?
Tamar does. Tamar's fluid. Fluidez. Tamar's fluid. She won't say that. She's like, but she's very good. She can have conversations. She also has struggles like talking about more deeper like agricultural concepts and like pesticide. She didn't live there. It's her third language, but she has conversations with people very comfortably. Yes. So Tamar and her talking, and they're hitting it up, and they're both very organic, natural human beings that love the earth. And Tamar tells Marta's apartment was also moldy. So we ended up staying at the hotel down the street. But so we're at the hotel, we spent a couple nights with Marta, and Tamar explains to Marta her situation. And Marta goes, oh, there's this place, I'm not gonna say the name, there's this place, but it's in the dry Andes. And she said, literally, it was voted the top 3 best climates in South America. And it's dry, but there's enough rain for agriculture. So as soon as she says that, Tamar's like, oh, we gotta go to this place. We gotta check it out. And we go to this place, and of course, shout out to the divine, shout out to God. The first Airbnb we stayed at in this place, the woman has a cousin who lives in the place that's very dry with no mold. So she's like, oh yeah, I'll hook you up with my cousin. I think she actually she knows of this farmhouse she was telling me about. Maybe you guys can stay there. And so we go to this place, and we pull up. We meet this couple who they were. One guy was like the minister of health or like some high position in the hospital in Guayaquil, which is the biggest city in Ecuador. His wife was a dentist, and they retired and moved to this small town of 2,000 people. And a friend of theirs who was born and raised there, he has this farmhouse, and they pretty much hooked us up. Like, we met them, lovely people. The guy, Fernando, he plays the guitar. Tamara plays guitar. They're jammed out together. And we went to this farmhouse, and that's history. That's where we are now. It's like this incredible place surrounded by the Andes. The rent is very affordable. And so we are now in this farmhouse. I think so. We went about an hour, which we wanted to kind of cap it at an hour. How you feel on time? Maybe we could talk a little bit about what life is like, but maybe we finish it. Well, how you feeling?
I'm good to go another 15, 20 minutes. I want to ask you about that, and also ask you a little bit about the Sacred Inclusion Network, how you got involved with that, what you're feeling about that. So I think if you have the time, we should go another 15, 20 minutes, and maybe have a part, let it rest and marinate, and later on down the road, maybe have a part 2 after a while.
Okay. And also down the road, we want to learn about your life as well. Yeah, let's do that. Perfect. So, okay, what I'll say. So now in May, we're at this farmhouse, and now we just have to adapt to this totally new lifestyle. Like, when I step outside, there's no neighbors. It's just mountain and trees and birds. And, I'm used to stepping outside and having a million people everywhere, and there's isolation. I don't speak Spanish fluently. I can say just enough to get by, but so now I can't really have any deep conversations with people, which is, an issue. But I feel like at first, just being in this beautiful, incredible place, we can put seeds in the earth. And our landlord is very cool. He's a farmer. He works with cattle, and that's like 90% of the food him and his family eat, they grow, which is really cool. So he was like, look, yeah, you guys can plant whatever you want. Like, here's a little good area. And he's been working with us. And, he's not perfect. He's not a landlord. He's just kind of a guy who has a house. So there's a lot of like things, and like at first he would literally just like show up without telling us. And like one time he showed up with his cousins and they were all very drunk, like not very landlordish, but we have a good relationship. And so now it's about adapting to this new lifestyle. And for me, the main thing is that all of these traumas, all of these fears and anger started coming up. And just because I had time, and I had been doing enough work leading up there to kind of start pinpointing the issues. But now, like, it's kind of like I gave myself the chance to like take a deep breath and like tune in, because my whole life I've been tuned out. I've been playing baseball, chasing girls, partying, learning. Everything's been out there. And now it's come back to me. And I've been dealing with depression again, because it never left. It just got pushed in. But like throughout this journey, like I was like, once I get here, it'll be good. Once I go to Thailand, it'll be good. No, it didn't work. Once I do this, it'll be good. Oh, no, it didn't work. Oh, once I find the perfect place in Ecuador, it'll be, nah, that didn't work. And what I realized is all the pain, all the shame is still in me. And now it's like I have the chance to do the work. And it's still hard. There's still, everyday chores, or always cooking or watering the plants or doing something in the garden. It's not like, I kind of also glorified it as once I get there, the life will be so this, and I'll be relaxed. And it's like, no, me and Tamar have issues. We get into fights. We're together, us two, a lot. So we're like seeing each other in ways that we haven't really seen before. Not all positive ways. So we're working together to try to, have a cohesive partnership. And that's been the main thing, is like, wow, you've just held all of your emotions. And really, like, I've been told this is because at an early age, I learned to shield myself from my negative emotions. I've shielded myself from all emotions. So I've just kind of, I don't want to say I've been on autopilot, but to some extent I've been in autopilot. Just like life, like I've had a pretty interesting life, but also I kind of been watching it, where now it's like, oh, I got to step into myself, and like, this is my opportunity to really heal and become the person that I feel like I'm here to be. And, it's hard. Like I said, I'm isolated. I'm financially just hanging in there. There's the problems haven't stopped, but it's a way different time. And now I can walk outside and I can see all the beautiful the yellow birds, the red birds, the green hummingbirds, and I can take papayas off of a tree. And the last thing I'll say about being here is the little things is what has really made it so beautiful. Like literally the other day. So one thing I started doing is I started volunteering to coach basketball to the local kids. Like it's literally a town of 2,000 people. I'm in this elementary school with kids who are all only speak Spanish. And I come in and I'm volunteering, and I want to be the basketball coach. Right now, I'm really just like the gym teacher. Like I come in and we just play games, but it's perfect for my soul. Cause like, that's what I believe is my purpose. The path that has led me is, work with children to help them to grow into good people and to be like a community organizer of such. And so, what I say, the little things. So I go to yesterday. I go to the school, and the school was closed. They didn't tell me it was a holiday or something. So I get there, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not working today. So I decided to walk back. It's like a 45-minute walk, and I'm walking back along the road, and this random dude just stops, looks at me, and just walks over and starts talking to me. And I just have a good Carlos is the guy. He works with chickens. He lives in like an old little, I don't want to call it a shack. I want to say a couple steps above a shack, but got a little house. He told me he has a pretty girlfriend that lives in Vilcabamba, which is where I was, like the hippie town. And he always had he asked me a bunch of questions, and just like the little things like that, like walking down the street and someone's like, who the hell is this guy? I want to talk to you. And just like having little human interactions, although I can't expand, I can't tell them deeply how I feel in my life, but these little, I'm walking, I'm at this Airbnb right now, and I'm every day I walk past, and there's a coconut man, and he's just sitting out there, and he sells us, like, to the drivers who pass by. He sells his coconuts, and I bought a couple of coconut waters, and like that's my man now. Like we had a little conversation every time. Like yesterday, I bought a whole stick of bananas. I don't know where they are. It'd be cool. I mean, I'll show them to you. I bought like a whole batch of bananas from him, and I had some food in my hand, and he like went to like steal my food, like joking around. And it's like, wow, the coconut man is joking with me. Like, like these little things of what I'm really realizing is like what's keeping me here, shall we say? And I wonder what this sounds like looking back. I feel like I'm just like, and then, but that's I guess.
I like what you said about the little things. That's very touching and evocative. It creates, it gives me a connection to what you're really doing and experiencing. But let me just, I'm interested in the structure of things. So, do you do a little work for the farm as part of your rent? Or do they just give you, you just pay rent and they give you a little space to do your own farming? What is do you have a core, I know Tamara's mentioned to me that she's taking yoga classes or you're studying yoga or studying, what do you, in 2 minutes or less, and I mean that figuratively, you could take a short time. What are you doing with, I'm a little bit like the older brother who's like, okay, what are you doing, So again, you may not have an answer to that. It's fine. If the answer is there's no, I'm not looking for a specific kind of answer. I'm not pressing you, but I'm asking you, if that makes any sense. What are you doing with your life there? If you have an answer to that.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Well, to answer the farming situation, so my landlord has, like, we call it an orchard. It has like banana trees, papaya trees, orange trees, coffee fruit, and he has like a whole situation, but he pretty much gave us a little plot of land. And actually, Tamar and him are working together. There's like all of this land in the back where there's a bunch of corn or the remnants of corn, where I think we're hopefully going to start working with that land and kind of more working together. But now he has like 85% of this area, and he gave us a little plot and Tamar is definitely leading the way when it comes to gardening. She's doing like the majority of the thinking work. But we got rosemary, we got cedron, I'm blanking out in English. We got lemon balm, we got mustard greens, we got some radishes growing, we got mints, we got lavender, we got chamomile, like all types of herbs. So one thing I'm doing is learning how to tend to a garden, learning when to trim certain things, how to water, different techniques. We follow a very specific gardening technique that we're hoping that like becomes very successful. So gardening is a big part of it. And then, like I said, I spend 6 hours a week working with kids, coaching basketball, just having fun. Then I spend about 2 to 3 hours working with Angelo, which is just like, anything for the network. We're organizing events. We're trying to get people in.
Right,
we're doing stuff like this.
Let me interrupt you on that. Say who Angelo is, so not everyone who listens to, let's say this is open. Let's say my wife watches this. Hello, wife.
Facts.
Or anybody who's a little bit outside the Well, who is Angelo? What is the network? Explain what that is so that this podcast can bring people in from who aren't already just on the inside of this little story.
I'm glad you asked that. So Angelo is the founder of the Sacred Inclusion Network, and he's pretty much like, I look at him sort of like an uncle. I don't know if you actually know, I've known Angelo since the day I was born, pretty much. His wife and my wife are friends, and they went to baby classes together. And he started this organization where, so I don't want to get too much of it because he'll explain it way better than me, but it's pretty much a spiritual network for people who see themselves as spiritual but not religious, and who want to spend time to create a community together so that we can have a better understanding of each other, the world we live in, and to create bonds like that we are creating to help people find and follow their dreams. And that's pretty much the overview of it. We do explorations where Angelo will find a very interesting person from a variety of fields. Where he just did a podcast about aliens. So he's worked with people who've worked in leadership roles in corporate settings that have turned to spirituality. And we have these explorations where someone will share knowledge and whatever expertise they have. And then we'll have a dialogue of kind of how we can work these principles and these ideas in our life. And as you know, we have community nights, which are, 7-10 of us get together and we have conversations about specific topics. We had one about the masks that we wear. That was extremely powerful. You told some stories that were like really touching. I was like shocked. And, me coming in, like Angelo is doing, like, saved my life with letting me work with him. But I had no idea how impactful the work would actually be by like just meeting. I had a conversation with a farmer from Western Kenya because of the network. And as you know, this guy, he studied nuclear science. He was a nuclear scientist in Saudi Arabia who now wants to be a coach. And now I'm going to get coaching lessons from him. Hopefully, maybe we both are. But I'll just stop it there. Hopefully I did it.
All right, let me ask some more questions to clarify this. So Angelo is named Angelo John Lewis. That's correct?
Yes.
The same last name as you, correct?
Yes.
Any familial relationship?
None. That's my brother, but not by It's very interesting. So he has a son who's EJ, Emmanuel Lewis, and I call him my cousin because I've known him my whole life. We have the same last name. We have that relationship, but it's not blood. We just happen to have the same last name.
Okay. All right. So, and what I would say as a member of the Sacred Inclusion Network, and you got to correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's no ideology. It's not a religion. It's not pushing a belief system. I see it as a network of people who want to explore together, who have a spiritual interest, certainly a diverse multicultural interest, a human interest, an interest in being open and connecting. And we just found each other. We don't have a book. We don't have a Bible. We don't have a course. We don't have we don't believe, have a creed, nothing like that. Because, someone from the outside is going to say, maybe they're a cult, or maybe they follow, sort of a sub religion thing. I want to make sure that I want to, potentially use this podcast when edit it or however we, might finish it off to introduce. I have friends who who I think would be cool for the network, but they're like, well, how do I exactly explain? Sacred Inclusion Network as a name can sound intimidating. I can tell you from the outside, it's like even just the word sacred, it can sound like they must be. Do they go into some church somewhere and get on their knees and pray before some Catholic priests or something? And I'm Jewish, so the word sacred to me originally was like, oh, that's some Christian thing or some, originally, that's, I didn't know, when I was, I associated it with, because that's all I knew. I associated it with Christianity, and I'm like, well, I'm Jewish, so something sacred doesn't sound like something that applies to me. Now, that's just my experience and me coming from another generation, and God knows what I came from, a sheltered background. But, but I'm thinking like, so I'm going to, most of my friends are going to be white people who are maybe have somewhat similar backgrounds to me, or maybe not, but they're going to be like, what the hell is the Sacred Inclusion Network anyway? So how would you, is there anything more you could say in response to that?
Whew, that's a tough, that's, and it's hard to define. It's hard to define unless you experience it. But I think you did a great job. It is a group of people. It's not based on any specific ideology, except that community is important. And we want to create a community where people feel safe to share openly and vulnerably about themselves, and are also open to learn about the perspectives of other people, and then to hopefully come together and create beautiful things, whether it's a conversation like this, whether it's a workshop, whether it's maybe art in the future. And we have our own little social media site where we just have these little discussions and we ask each other questions. That's one thing, is I'm trying to get other people to ask more questions. So you're gonna get in that category as well, in the network. Yeah. But
I can do that.
but we are building a community based off people who are seeking whatever that might be. It's community, connection, knowledge. That's the best I got. It's not a solid thing.
And there's no hierarchy. The leader is not some kind of a cult leader. There's no, there's no positions. There's no, we're not weird. In other words, it's what I'm trying to say. I got into this because I met